Hello, welcome to Special Collections at the University of Arkansas. My name is Lori Birrell and I'm Associate Dean for Special Collections here. I'm very excited that you're joining us for the second in our webcast series, Virtual Tours of Archives and Special Collections. So today I'm going to be showing you our different spaces and focusing on our shared classroom space that we started using this fall. So if you'll follow me, we'll head into our first room. So we're fortunate here to have two processing spaces, and so the room we're in now is shared by 3 full-time staff members, as well as several students. And as you can see, they're certainly busy at work, working on various collections related to university history, as well as our special collections and manuscript collections. We have over 2,500 manuscript collections here at the university, and so much of the work to organize them and make them available for research happens right here. So now we're going to head on down the hall. Special Collections here at the university is located on level 1 or below ground. And so we have about half of the floor for our services. This is a great exhibit that went up earlier this fall. It's about foodways and food culture in Arkansas. We have a pretty strong cookbook collection in our holdings here. And so our assistant head and research and education archivist, as well as our folklore librarian, put this exhibit together to highlight some of that history. And next we'll step into our accessioning and second processing room. So this is where the accessioning magic happens for special collections, as well as a number of student workers who work in this space. And so what you're seeing here are collections that have recently come in and that are being, some of which are being processed right now. So our main collecting areas, of course, are rooted in Arkansas history, and we're very proud to be continuing to collect Arkansas history. We also have strong holdings in international education, literature. You'll see some of our architecture collections a little bit later today. We have a strong rare book collection. We have about 100,000 rare books, and when we go into our stacks, you'll see some of that. So if you'll follow me, we're going to head into special collections. We have a bit of a unique setup for some of our public space, so you'll be able to see that as well. On the way, you can see the lockers that our researchers use when they come in. Our reading room, of course, is no drink, that kind of thing, and so we have lockers for our patrons. Along this hallway here are a number of faculty and staff offices, as well as a great exhibit celebrating our state newspaper, or one of the newspapers in our state. We do have a shared reading room and event space, and so we're not going to spend a lot of time in here because we do have researchers working with us today. So if you'll follow me, we'll continue into our stacks area. Since it's the end of the semester, we have had a number of researchers coming in. We work with about 2,500 a year, and so a lot of the boxes that are out are from end of the semester projects. About half to 3/4 of the researchers we work with are faculty and staff here at the university. So the shelving that you're seeing on the screen now, this is from our Arkansas collection. We're proud to collect, or to try to collect, the entire print record of the state of Arkansas, and so that includes government publications and things that the university puts out, as well as children's books, all different kinds of things produced and written by or about the state of Arkansas. We also have strong music holdings, and so over here you can see William Grant Still's music typewriter. Grant Still was one of the prominent jazz musicians of the early part of the 20th century. Just last month, we put in swipe card access to our secure stacks, and this came out of a set of security recommendations that we devised based on the RBMS security guidelines. So we now have a ID swipe system. You're now seeing our compact shelving. I'm going to talk a bit more about our storage spaces towards the end of the tour, but this is where we keep most of our rare book collection, as well as our most heavily used manuscript and archives collections as well. And the rest of our collections are stored off-site, and we'll be talking more about that a little bit later on. Collections has a few odd kind of cubbyhole type spaces, and so I'm going to show you a couple of those next. So the space we're heading into now is what we continue to refer to as the Fulbright room, except it no longer holds Fulbright collections. So about a year ago, all this shelving stored our Fulbright collections, so related to Senator Fulbright as well as the Fulbright program. But what we found was that the environment of this room was really not good for storing manuscript collections long term. And so as part of a pretty extensive space planning project, we moved those collections out into the compact shelving that you just saw. And now what we have here is collection material that is being used for classes and being used for current exhibits. So this is kind of a temporary holding space. On the right, we have some collections that are being processed, as well as bins for our offsite storage transport. So those clear bins are what our boxes are, how they're transported to and from our offsite storage facility. And then in the back, you can also see a computer setup. That's the very early stages of a digital preservation program that we've started here in Special Collections. So we have a non-networked computer back there, as well as some obsolete media to read some of the Born Digital files that have come in to our collections. And then in the back here, you can't quite see it, but that's where we keep our archival supplies. Again, we used to keep collection material back there. That's where our oldest collections were stored, and we found that that environment was just not conducive to it. So about a year ago, we did a pretty extensive switch. So now we're going to head back across the hall, and that's where we'll be spending most of our time. So this is our architectural records room, and this is what we decided to convert into a shared classroom space beginning this fall semester. So what we found last year was that we had way too many events and classes taking place in our reading room. And as you saw, our reading room is busy with researchers, of course. We have staff who work there. And so shutting it down about 8 times a semester for events that we had, as well as we teach over 65 to 70 classes a semester. So that was just way too much interruption for our researchers. It just wasn't considerate of them. So we did a pretty thorough evaluation of our spaces, thought about, what are some options for accommodating our growing instruction program. Like most archives, making sure that our students and faculty are exposed to our collections is a key priority for us, and our instruction program is a really big part of that effort. And so this space that's just across from our reading room was kind of a prime location to try out. And so the folks who do instruction gave this a try this year. What we decided to do was to book this like any other library space. We use LibCal for booking our rooms. And so the idea, because this is also an office space, you can see our architectural records archivist workspace right there. What we decided to do was to sort of set up some governance for this space. And so you have to give Kat at least a week's notice when you book the space. In addition to booking it through our LibCal system, you also need to talk with Kat about what kind of space setup you need. So for our tour today, I asked her if she would be so kind as to clear off this set of flat files, which is one of the work surfaces she uses when she's processing, because this is also a processing space. And I also asked that she clear off that big table so you could see kind of how our classes are accommodated. And so this is a pretty big time imposition on Kat and on her work. So when we have classes in here, she's then more often than not working someplace else. And so we've bought some additional types of furniture so that she has more flexibility. She now has a laptop. But these are the kinds of considerations that we found were necessary to really accommodate our growing instruction program. What you probably can't tell from this space, because to me it seems very big, but we do have a maximum occupancy of 19 people. And when we started the semester, that seemed like a whole lot of students to be able to accommodate, but I was sort of surprised how many 20-person classes come into Special Collections. So for those classes, of course, we have to find alternative spaces. So this is really designed for seminar type classes, really active learning classes. I've been impressed with how our instruction archivists have utilized this space as well as the table, has tried to make it as dynamic a space as possible. Certainly, if this was a more ideal environment, we would have movable furniture. There'd be ways to really maximize the kind of active learning we want to do. We're fortunate to have a screen that can be set up in this room, which you're seeing here today as well. So that helps us expose our students and faculty to our digital collections, as well as doing targeted information literacy related to our finding aids and how to really do research. So as I mentioned, we have over 2,500 manuscript collections. We work with just about that many researchers each year. A number of our students are doing academic internships with us. They're doing pretty creative projects. I also wanted to give you a sense of our institutional context now that you've seen a bit of our spaces. The University of Arkansas is a public land-grant university. It has over 27,000 students, as well as about 5,000 to 6,000 graduate students. And we're a research one institution. There are about 150 faculty and staff in our library. We have faculty status as librarians, or a number of us do. And so we're involved in the faculty governance of the university. We're located in the northwest corner of the state, which is where Walmart and Tyson Foods are located. And so we have a pretty large kind of entrepreneurial spirit in our area, as well as a growing arts community, thanks to the Walmart Foundation and the Walton Family Foundation. And so that's part of the institutional context we have here, because those businesses and this kind of cultural evolution that's happening here has really driven our collecting practices. So I mentioned a few areas like architecture, of course, and Arkansas history, but we're also interested in collecting the records of our local artists and arts organizations. And so as the area continues to evolve and grow, we're certainly thinking long-term about our collecting focus and how we can best meet the needs of our researchers who are traveling here, but then also our faculty and students and what they're working on. So now I'm happy to take your questions, and we're going to kind of flip the camera around. I want to thank Dina Owens, our administrative assistant, for walking with me today, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Okay, so Cynthia, Lori, what was the sensor that you placed your hand up to? Oh, right, so this is, I'm actually going to sit down. Hello again. Thank you, Dina. So this was a hands-free sensor that you wave your hand in front of as part of our new ID system, and that's to get out of the stacks. So that that enables us to ideally have some flexibility when we're moving out of that space. So if you have a cart with you, or if you're carrying something, ideally that's simpler. What we found from folks is that they end up propping the door open anyways. So it's not quite as seamless as we might have thought, but that's what that's for. So in terms of, is it for person counting or gateway access? So it is more for gateway access. I have software installed on my computer that I can see who is using, who is swiping in and out. So if we have a problem, I'm able to sort of administer that, but it's mostly for access. Are there other questions? Sydney, how many faculty staff members comprise your, yes, thank you. I meant to include that and didn't. So we're a faculty and staff of 13, and we have 6 faculty members, including myself, and the rest are staff. We have 3 full-time processing archivists. That was the first room we went into, as well as an outreach coordinator. We have an assistant head in the department. We have our research and education archivist, our administrative assistant, Dina, as well as our architectural records archivist. She's a staff member. And then we have 2 full-time people in our research services unit. We work with about a dozen student workers every semester, and the kind of composition of that changes. So we tend to have 3 to 4 students working in our reading room every semester, and they're providing support so that we can try to have 2 people in the reading room at any given time, so that we can be paging material and still have someone physically in the room with our researchers, just as part of our security measures. Then we have probably 5 students who work in our processing rooms with our processors, and they're doing EAD conversion. We're in the middle of a pretty massive EAD project. They're also working on processing. They're working on inventorying projects related to our offsite storage facility. And I did want to talk a little bit more about our offsite storage, but before I do that, I also wanted to share that we have an academic internship program. So each semester we work with 1 to 2 academic interns who are working on a variety of projects, most of which result in their participating in a student showcase event, and that's an opportunity for them to share their work with others. And then we also have other students funded by different grant projects that we're working on with various faculty members. So I'll answer Cynthia's question. What other classroom spaces do you use for larger classes? Okay, so we try to be as creative as possible. We're about to embark on a 2-floor building renovation in the library. And so, like I say, we're on level 1. So level 1 won't be impacted, neither will level 2, but 3 and 4 are shutting down at the end of next week. And so what we do have available to us on level 1 is a computer lab that accommodates probably 25 people. And then we have what used to be set up as a lecture style room also on this floor is soon going to be filled with tables for some more active learning type space. So we're able to certainly use both of those spaces, and we do as we can. I've also encouraged folks in special collections to take material on the road, so bring it to the classroom where our faculty are teaching. That's all weather dependent, and there are a lot of different factors involved with that. But we've really tried to think creatively about how we're able to do that. And so when we're bringing things offsite, we often use those clear bins that you saw that I was talking that's how we transport things off to and from offsite. But we also use that for bringing material. Oftentimes we have to bring another staff member, so that certainly has an impact when we're doing something outside of the building. We do have some spaces that they're on the 3rd and 4th floor that we could use. Some of those, a couple of those rooms will remain open through the renovation because they're on a different side of the building. So I would say that all told, we have probably 5 or 6 options right now, and that's going down to 2 or 3 options. And so we've already started planning our instruction for the spring, and a number of our faculty are looking to take materials outside of our building just because they know that space is going to be at such a premium. So our instruction program, so like I say, we teach about 65 to 70 classes each year. History is still kind of our bread and butter, but we've seen a lot of growth recently in our School of Art classes. We have a pretty prominent artist book collection and a growing rare book collection, and so our faculty are interested in using that. And so what our approach has been is to really be proactive. We just put a request form on our website, so we haven't seen how that's going to look or what that's going to result in. So mostly it's still word of mouth and faculty reaching out to us, but we're trying, especially with our new faculty who come on campus, to proactively reach out to them to look at the course catalog, see what they're teaching, and then email them and give them some options. So part of our work with our recent some website content revision work that we did was to really emphasize the kind of pedagogy that we can offer and the kind of information literacy sessions that we can offer our faculty. And then we try to really kind of directly target certain classes with certain types of collection material. And that's been, from what I've seen, that has been very successful. We've had a pretty big uptick in the number of research assignments that are coming out of our sessions. So we're now at about 20% of all instruction sessions have some kind of research assignment. So the students that were across the hall, I believe that they're from an LGBTQ class that was using a variety of different types of materials as part of their final project. And that's the kind of growth that I'd like to see for us. I'd like to see us get our research assignment percentage up to more like 50% so that we're really seeing deep engagement with the material as opposed to one-off instruction. I think that that's how we'll really start to see impact across the curriculum. Do you develop instruction sessions in conjunction with professors? So, or do you have a curriculum? So we don't have a set curriculum. I should say I'm not certainly responsible for teaching, unfortunately, but the folks that do our instruction, they reach out to our faculty, and then usually they do a one-on-one consultation after they've sent some ideas. And if the faculty member is receptive to an assignment or is receptive to certain kinds of sessions, then that's very much a conversation, and it's developed in partnership with the faculty member. I think it's pretty unusual that someone in special collections shows up to do a class and the faculty member doesn't know kind of what's going to be offered. And one thing we haven't really gotten too far with are concrete lesson plans or learning objectives. That's something I'd like to see our program evolve into so that we're able to track learning outcomes over time, and also so that we're doing more holistic assessment. We do a bit of assessment right now, but I think especially as we have an continued growth in our research assignments, we'll want to be sure that we're being cognizant of that assessment as well. So we don't lend special collections materials to other schools. That's something that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of years, especially as various interlibrary loan programs reach some maturity, because I'm very interested in seeing what those possible models might be. Right now, certainly you can request copies of materials, you can request scans. We have a very active scanning program for our researchers or for other patrons, but we don't do interlibrary loan for special collections right now. I will just say a little bit about our offsite storage facility. So about a year and a half ago now, a new facility opened up, and about 80 to 90% of our collections are now stored offsite. And the facility is about not quite a mile away. We've always had offsite storage, or for decades have had offsite storage. This is the first time that special collections folks um, can't visit the facility and page things ourselves. And so we work with a team from user services, and they do 4 runs to our facility every day. And so if you request something at 9 o'clock in the morning, it'll be there around lunchtime. And to me, I think that's pretty excellent service that we're able to provide our patrons. Like I say, we've always stored things offsite. And so it's really just about getting people to think about making those requests before they show up in the reading room. What moving those collections to this new facility has done is to ensure that they're in a fantastic preservation environment. And also to give us the kind of flexibility that you saw as we were walking through the stacks. So we now have a lot of growth space within our building footprint. We now are able to store our supplies in one area. We're able to develop a digital preservation setup. And so there's a lot of flexibility we now have because we've been able to be thinking more strategically about our collections and what's stored on site. So Sydney was wondering if you ever host semester-long classes in your department. So we have not done that yet. The closest we've come is to do about half of an intersession class. So this was a series of rare books classes over the last several years. There's a faculty member that teaches a history of the book type class or history of print culture. And so they've come in. Let's say it's a 3-week class, they probably come in 50% of the time. They'll spend several hours with us. If we were to do that again this spring, I'd want to have them in this room, the room I'm sitting in right now, our shared classroom space, because having students in our reading room for 3 or 4 hours at a time as part of a classroom setting is taxing for our researchers who are also there. We're also considering doing other types of more long-term collaboration with faculty. So in 2021, not only does the University of Arkansas celebrate its 150th anniversary, go Razorbacks, but it's also the 75th anniversary of the start of the Fulbright program. And so we've been talking with faculty about doing a semester-long class. It won't meet in special collections, but it'll have a special collections emphasis to celebrate the Fulbright anniversary. And then we've also been talking with our honors college about potentially picking a theme from university history and developing a class with them. To answer your question, no, we haven't done that kind of embedded type class in special collections, but I think that there's definitely interest in that. And I hope that we might be able to expand our program to be able to accommodate that. Does anyone else have any questions? So while you're thinking, I do just want to thank you for joining us. This is a program that our organizing committee has put together so that folks who don't live near other academic libraries have an opportunity to see what other special collections departments are up to. And I hope you'll tune in next month. So on January 16th, Cynthia, who's on our video today, at 2 p.m. Eastern is going to show you her special collections department at Loyola Marymount out in California. And I hope you'll join us for that. It'll be through this YouTube channel as well. And I see we've got a question from Laura. How do researchers request materials? Oh, no, you didn't miss it, Laura. I didn't specify that. So we use an inventory system called KayaSoft. Right now, we make those requests through the system on behalf of the researcher. I'm excited to share with you that come the summer or later next year, we're implementing Aon. And what we're hoping is that Aon and KayaSoft, they should be able to talk to one another. And so we're hoping that our researchers will have a little less, need us a little bit less as an intermediary. We'll still want to be sure that the things they're requesting can be circulated. So it'll be a bit of trial and error to figure all that out. But like I say, right now it's researchers emailing us. We have an email account for reference, and then our research services folks putting in those requests. All right, great. Any other questions? All right, so I'll just end by talking with just a couple of the challenges of the shared space that we've encountered this semester. So certainly the size of our classes is one of them. Kat having to move to another work area is one of them. Having to kind of clean up the work that she's doing is certainly a challenge. But I think where we've really seen success is just being able to experiment a little bit, to have some flexibility to think creatively about our spaces and how we want to use them. Next semester, we're going to be continuing with this model, but we're in the middle of doing a bit of an assessment to see how it went and if there are any improvements that we can make, either to be less disruptive to Kat or to be more conducive to the kind of instruction we want to be doing. So that's where we're headed with this space. And I'm thrilled that you all were able to join us today, and hope you'll consider coming back next month on the 16th. So thank you so much.